I did want to discuss the 8867. Obviously, the 8867 is one of the 4 due diligence requirements. There are 4 due diligence requirements. One is complete the 8867. One is compute the credits. One is the knowledge requirement, and one is the record retention requirement. Again, this is not in the PowerPoint, but it's in the handouts. With the 8867 or with all the requirements, each requirement must be met on its own accord. What that means is if you ask a question from the 8867, that does not cover the knowledge requirement when you have to ask questions in the knowledge requirement part. If you have to ask it again, you just have to ask it again. Basically, what I'm saying is once you meet requirement number 1, you have to go to requirement number 2 as if requirement number 1 was never done. Then once you meet requirement number 2, you have to go to requirement number 3 as if requirement number 1 and 2 was never done, and so forth and so on. Requirement number 1 is the 8867. So a lot of people always ask, what should we put on line 5 of the 8867 when they ask something to the effect of list the documents, if any, that you relied on to determine eligibility of these tax benefits. The key words there is if any. No documents are required for due diligence. Okay. Please believe me. All right. No documents are required for due diligence. The problem that I find with a lot of practitioners is we tend to think that 2 people can't be right at the same time, right? And that's not true. If someone decides to collect documents, they are not wrong. If someone decides not to collect documents for due diligence, I'm referring to, they are not wrong. Documents are not required. No leases, no school records, no letter from your pastor, no medical records. They are not required. That actual list, school records, medical records, lease, social services statement, that list comes from the Internal Revenue Manual. The Internal Revenue Manual, as most of us know, is the IRS's manual on how they are to function and how they are to go out into the field and audit people and do their everyday lives. So what that's saying is the IRS will ask for those documents from taxpayers. Tax preparers are not required to ask for those documents from taxpayers. So it's not a requirement. The reason why the word requirement is so important, you can't blow past that. You can't just say requirement, request, you should, maybe, it would be nice. It's all the same. No, it's not. Because when we're talking about a requirement, you're talking about $635 per violation per return because you didn't do a requirement.